sharing.
All right, I think that you can start to share. Hello, everyone. So sorry for the little bit of a delay. We ran a little over on the last couple, but not by much. So
No,
welcome, welcome, welcome. Jackie, are you?
I'm getting there.
I want to make sure that you saw the. Oh, perfect. Here we go. All
Let
right.
me share the right screen.
Jackie's getting herself ready. Welcome, everyone. So good to see you for our last session for today. I hope you all had a great week, a really good Friday. Hello,
Yes.
Arizona and Texas and Florida and Alabama.
All right. Can you see my Kahoot screen,
I can
Marcy?
see your Kahoot screen. Yes. We're giving everybody a minute to roll in because you're
Yeah.
all gonna, if you've never played Kahoot, so fun. You're gonna be
So
so
much fun.
excited here. So we'll give you all a minute. And as we do, I just wanted to welcome you. Everything okay. Welcome you all to the Notary Public Day Extravaganza.
Yes.
And this is our last session for Friday with Jacqueline Phillips, the Ron Mom. We're so happy to have you. You got a fun fact to tell everybody? I tell everybody a fun fact about Jackie is she was the first notary
Hmm.
on the Notarize, now known as Proof platform. Isn't that amazing?
Yes.
I
I,
just love
I
it.
I still can't even believe it. Like looking back that it'll be 10 years next February.
Isn't
Can you
that
believe
something?
it? 10 years I've been a raw notary. Like that just blows my mind. And to think that Ron is still in his infancy. Really, Marcy, right? It's not even,
Yes. No,
it
but
is,
it seems like it's been around forever. Doesn't it
yes.
sometimes? I
Yep.
know. It's so funny. And then on the other side of it, it feels like it's brand new. It's
Yep.
just a fun fact I wanted to throw out there about Jackie. We love Jackie. So you know you're in good hands with all things Ron now that I told you that because she's been doing this for quite a while. Hi,
Just a little bit.
everybody. I see you all popping in. Make sure that you
Yes.
scan that QR code.
Yep.
So I'll give it
Scan
a
the,
couple more minutes since there's no one else behind us to make sure that you guys all get in and can play. I love that you're all picking your little people.
yeah.
Look at you. Come on in, everybody. Scan it in.
Chicago, Maryland, Texas, Missouri. Man, everyone's from everywhere.
Everywhere. We have people from all over the place.
I do
Washington.
like the jokes that you've had on the little preview screen.
Thank
Those
you. They're
those were
dad jokes.
good.
They're dad jokes. Some of them are yes, they're I tried to do something different.
They were
So I'm
good
glad
dad
they
jokes.
all
I agree.
enjoyed it. I got Florida here. Welcome,
Florida.
everybody. Welcome.
Yeah, another Virginia person. Woo woo.
Yeah, here you go. I hope you all have snack, a drink. It's the end of a day, end of
It
the week,
is.
end of the day. It's a good time to play a game. San
Yes.
Diego,
Woo woo.
Pennsylvania in the house. New York
Yes.
over here, New York in the house.
Yeah.
All right, be careful if you're driving.
Yeah, you
Jovita, if
can't
you're
play and
driving, be
drive.
careful. Don't play and drive. We
You
don't
do.
want to think bad happen to you.
Lakeland, Florida.
Texas, here we go. Here we go. All right, I'll give it one more minute to
Minutes.
get you all in.
Then we're gonna get
Love this little
started.
unicorn. These guys are so cute.
I
Look at these.
know they do.
I know they're so fun. This is so fun. If you've never played Kahoot, it is so fun. I've done it like 10 times now. It
Yes,
is,
awesome.
it's enjoyable. I'll
It
change
is.
up my
It,
terminology for this one.
it
All
changes
right,
the pace. All right, you ready? Here we go.
here
I'm
we
gonna
go.
hit the
I
start
think I'm
button.
ready. Are you ready?
I am ready.
Okay. I'm going to
And
take
then
myself
if,
off the screen and it's all you unless you need me, then shout out my name.
all right, I will. All right. So everyone, thank you for joining. As we go through the presentation tonight, I will point it out that you can still join, even though we started. There is a podium at the end, so if you don't get started now, you won't be able to be on the top of the podium. So just a little bit about Kahoot. If you haven't played it before, it's the person who answers correctly the fastest gets the most points, and there is a podium for the top three. So it's a little bit competitive, but it also makes it interactive for the training. All right, so I'm gonna hit the start button. All right, so I want to thank Marcy for inviting me to Notary Public Extravaganza. This was just amazing how much I there lots of work that goes into a conference. also into virtual conference. So thank you, Marcy, for having us today. So we always need to start off with some agenda so we know where we're going, right? We don't want to wander around aimlessly. So we'll do a little bit of introduction. We'll talk about what is remote online notarization. We'll talk about why it's important, some best practices, and then we'll do some questions here at the end. And since we're the last one, we could probably stay a little bit later if you want to hang out because I will talk all things Ron. Um, so here we go. So a little bit about me. I am mom of nine. I'm a twin mom. My last two are twins. They just turned 21 2 weeks ago. So no responsibility, not true. So I started out as an accountant. I became a notary at the accounting firm that I was at, and they needed someone to just notarize documents. So I'm an employee notary. That's how I started out. Was an accountant for 20 years and I was working at a Subway location and they transferred all the accounting outside the country. That was in 2014. And so I had to make a big decision. Do I stay in the accounting field or do I take my notary world to the um, notary credentialing to the next level? I had done a notary signing agent job a mile from my house back in 2012. And I was like, I love meeting people. I was doing about one or two on my way home in the evening from work. So it was just the thing for me to do. So I'm like, let's just go ahead. Jumped in, just full on board. 2014, 2015, we get a call from Carol Ray. If you've taken Notary to Pro, you know who Carol Ray is. And she said, these two guys are going to call you and they want to know if you want to do remote online notarization. And at that time, my sister and a friend of ours were doing a little bit of research about online notarization. And when you have 7 kids at home, you need to have a little leeway for band and orchestra and all the things that kids do after school or being able to pick them up. So remote online notarization was where I needed some flexibility with the kids getting older. So in 2016, met with Pat Adam at Notarize, and in February 4th, 2016, I became the very first notary on the Notarize platform, as Marcy pointed out. And since then, I've done over 6,000 notarizations with remote online notarization. You notice I've only done 3,000 in person. I so much more love online than in person, and we'll talk about that. In 2023, I became an NNA ambassador. So you're going to see me always talking to notaries, making sure that you're notarizing a document compliantly. And then that year also became a NNA hotline consultant. So if you call in and you ask for the Ron Mom, everybody knows on the team that you have an online notarization question and you're going to get the Ron Mom when you need a Ron question asked. All right, so let's do a little bit of poll. So I want to know, how familiar are you with remote online notarization? So go to your phones wherever you are and put in an answer. Have you never heard of it? Heard about it a little? Somewhat familiar, or you're very familiar? I want to get a little feel of the room of how much do you know about remote online notarization? So this one doesn't count. It's just a polling question. Gets you accustomed to clicking on the screen, feeling how this works. If you're just joining us, you can go to kahoot.it down at the bottom and put in that game pin and you can join us. We haven't done any questions that cost any points yet. So you'll be able to jump in and still be on the podium at the end of the game. So it looks like most of you are familiar. There's a little bit of you that are somewhat familiar and you've heard a little bit or you've never heard of it. So that's going to be cool. So you're going to feel like you're drinking out of a fire hose then today. All right. Kind of know a little bit from the chat, but tell us, where do you live? Throw it in there. Be creative. Put in NY, New York, VA, whatever you're, and it's going to be quick here. We're down to the last 15 seconds. Tell us where you're from. Here we are, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Alabama, North Carolina, Florida. Wow, we are from coast to coast. Marcy, you have reached so many notaries, and I am so thankful for all of this enthusiasm that we had with notaries wanting to continue with continuing education. Right? Last polling question. So now I know that you've heard a little bit. Tell me if you're an e-notary, yes or no. Answers are coming in quick, like that. All right. 5, 4, Three, two, one. So half, almost a little bit more than half. So I'm talking to the choir, hopefully, but hopefully you'll learn a few things as we go along today. And this next question, I think, is the first question and gives you some points. Here we go. Quiz question. What is the name of the presenter, also known as the Ron Mom? And if you haven't noticed, some of these ladies have either already spoken or will be speaking at the extravaganza. So make sure that if you haven't got any today, go back and look at the YouTube later, but definitely join tomorrow for the extravaganza. So yep, I'm the Ron Mom. So you're gonna find me on social media as the Ron Mom. So if you look for me out there, that's my handle.
And I just
All
want to
right,
jump in real quick. If
leaderboard,
you're
Michelle
just
from New
joining, oh,
Jersey.
sorry, Jackie, hold on one second. If you're just joining, the pin is at the bottom of the screen here. I know a couple people asked in the chat, so I just wanted to jump in. I don't want you to miss out.
Yep.
Game
Yep.
pin, bottom of the screen. Okay, Jackie, sorry. Thank you.
No. Awesome. Nope. Yep. Kahoot.it and put in your game pin. All right. So Princess and Jonelle, tight. 9:35, 9:34, 9:33. This is going to be a tight game today. So I love it. So what is remote online notarization? I'd be remiss to not tell you that Virginia was the first state to enact remote online notarization. I am very proud of that fact. Um, so we pioneered commissioning Virginia notaries to perform notarial acts for signers located anywhere in the world using secure audio video communication. So that's the main thing. Me as a notary, I have now notarized over 6 continents. I have notarized for people in South America, people on the beach in Dubai. I've notarized for everybody, but the convenience and accessibility, I like it for me. I'm home. I can work 24/7. So have I notarized signers at 2 o'clock in the morning? Yep. I roll out of the bed, make sure that I'm game faced from the waist up, and I take care of those signers. And of course, we know that with COVID, it really was a major catalyst of accelerating the adoption of remote online notarization. A lot of the states then enacted emergency measures, and then after that, they saw that how it worked really well, and a lot of them have now enacted permanent measures for remote online notarization. There's about 43, 44 states that have enacted it. There's some states that are still working on doing some of the legislation that's behind it. We know that California is one of them. 2030 is their date, but know that most states do have remote online notarization. So what is it? So the main thing is that we have to remember that personal appearance is still important, right? So now the signer and the notary are going to appear before each other. The signer is going to be either on their phone, their tablet, their laptop, their computer. You're going to need to know the technology for the platform that you're on. Some platforms only allow the signer to be on the computer. Most platforms allow the signers to use their phone, their tablet, their laptop. All four or three of those things every time to do a remote online organization. And that's because we want that webcam. We wanted to be able to see, I need to be able to see them. They need to be able to see me. And it's over secure audio video technology. That platform is what allows that secure technology that we're going to use. I'm going to say this. So Ron is legally valid just as much as traditional notarization. So if you've done any type of split signing, we know that the signer may be in one state, traveling, work related, their spouse is at home. So they notarize first with their notary at home, or they notarize with a notary from out of their state. And that document can now move from border to border, and that document is acceptable. Well, it's the same with Ron. We're just moved the notaries in one state. The signer could be anywhere, and that document is just as legally binding. What we do like to advise, and that's our caveat down at the bottom, is that there's a lot of folks that still don't understand remote onlineization. They don't know how it works. So there's still a lot of education. So if you're notarizing a document on a continual basis and you know that it's acceptable, then I'm usually saying, okay, great. They call me up. I can notarize that document. If it's a document that I've never notarized, I have the signer check with the recipient to make sure that that electronically notarized document will be acceptable. I don't want them to pay me the $25, $50 or whatever the fee is for my state in order to get that notarization done. And then it gets rejected and then I have to refund or have to go educate. I'd rather educate up front than educate on the back end. All right. And Jacqueline forgot to make sure that power was powered. So we're going to go through this and then we will power up when you guys are answering a question. All right, so the steps to notarize documents with Ron. So our very first step is to get our documents uploaded. So either the signer is going to upload directly into the platform, or we're going to be using some type of secure way to get our documents. Google Drive, Dropbox. We don't want documents being sent over the email boxes. I use Encyro, Encyro. I love it. Janae from Florida turned me on to that app, and I absolutely love it for sending my docs. So once we get our documents to us, we prep them. The next part of that the next part of the remote online notarization is the verification of identity. We're going to talk a little bit more later on about KBA, credential analysis, and what that all entails. But you know that the signer has to verify who they are. We're going to use all the electronic guardrails to make sure that the person is who they say they are. After they've verified their identity, then we're going to move into live audio video. You need to be able to see the signer. They need to be able to see you. We're going to complete the documents. If there's any blanks, we're going to make sure we fill it in. If signature is going to be the signer is going to sign their part of the document, you're going to sign, put your magic stamp on there, and then we're going to make sure that the signer has instant access to that document so they can email it to whoever it may be. A great example of this is, let's say that a spouse needs a passport application for a child. They're not there, they're overseas. They meet with a remote online notary to get that document notarized. And guess what happens? As soon as they're done with that document, they can hit the email button and email it directly to their spouse, so that spouse can then go to the post office to get that document, to get that child's passport. So really instant access for the documents. All right, quiz question. So what is step one in the Ron process? All right, 2 seconds. Yep, you guys got it. You got to upload the docs. So got to get document. We need to have documents in order to start the process, because what we're doing, we're notarizing documents. So Michelle is holding on. Sign a Chick's jumping up here. And 10 places is Evelyn Virginia in the highest climber. All right, so we're having some fun now. True or false? Ron is legally valid as traditional notarization. True or false? If you're just joining, the the website and the game pin is at the bottom. So you're still able to join into the interaction. All right, everybody got it right. Definitely just as legally binding, but we're going to have the signer check because we don't want to have to refund or have them frustrated. All right, Michelle is New Jersey is hanging on. TJ from Texas is moving up, and 20 participants now have reached an three answer streak. All right, another quiz question. Multi-select. What device the signer uses for Ron? What device can the signer use for Ron? So you can select multiple answers. If you get them all right, you get the most points. 3, 2, 1. So yes. So your signers are going to use a tablet, their cell phone, their computer, in order to see. All right. So Zora, just climb right up there. Sign a Chick is still in real close here. So why is remote online notarization important? So let's talk about that. If I could get my notes up to make sure that I'm on the right track here. So we're going to talk about why is it important. There's some convenience and accessibility. So in convenience, we're talking about folks that have mobility challenges. So folks that can't get out to their home, right? So people that I have a story that I like to tell. This lady was elderly, couldn't get out. Her immunity was compromised, so they didn't even want to bring anybody into the home. So her family members were there in order for her to sign a power of attorney. But the notary's little antennas went up, and she's like, okay, there's a lot of people in the room. She had everyone state their name for the video. And then she's like, I need to talk to her directly. I don't want anyone answering any questions. I want to make sure I spoke to her. She actually had everyone turn around and not be able to even see the signer's face in the video so she could talk directly to the signer to make sure that she understood what she was signing. So know that even it's convenient and accessibility, you still need to make sure that you're doing all the things correctly to make sure that you're preserving that signer's um, awareness that they are signing, they're not being coerced into signing any type of documents. And then we're talking about time and efficiency. We're going to make sure that we're going to think about signers that may be overseas. I did a signing for signers this morning. They were in Germany. And imagine the flight from Germany to here, one, the cost of the flight. Then we're going to think about the time in the flight. Those flights take 14, 15 hours. So they would have to come back to the US, get that document notarized to sell their house and go back. Or they would have to go to the embassy. Anybody knows overseas, it's an appointment. 3 2 3 weeks, 4 weeks, sometimes a month before you can even see a notary. So that even takes more time. So with remote online notarization, you're able to meet with a signer normally the same day, or you can set it up in 2 days versus a month or 3 weeks in order to get that document notarized. Then we're having that enhanced security and fraud prevention. Those IDs are now going through those third-party vendors to make sure that it has all the security features. The things that we try to see with our eye, we're letting technology do that for us. And of course, we already talked, it's just as legally valid as our traditional notarization. So me, Virginia notary, can notarize for someone in South America. And it's just as legally valid here in the United States. Cost savings. We kind of already talked about that. A flight, right? $600-700 to fly there, fly back. If you don't have family in the area, a hotel room, an Uber, all of that goes away with remote online notarization. And of course, my favorite one, digital record keeping. All the states require the notaries to now have a journal. We know that some states don't require the notaries to have a journal for their notarization, but with remote online notarization, a journal is required, which I think is amazing with Ron. So, best practices for remote online notarization. Let's talk a little bit about that. So we talked about earlier that the signers have to be identified, right? We need to know our state laws on how to identify a signer. We know in person that the signer is going to show us an ID, right? And we're going to look at the front and the back of that ID. Most of us may have that book that from the NNA that you're able to look at, or we're using Google to see what the ID looks like to make sure that, especially if you're looking at an ID that might not be from your state. And with Ron, you're doing a lot of that. I'm looking notary signers in California, Texas, anywhere in the United States. So being able to have the platform do that for me is amazing. So that's the credential analysis portion. The third-party providers look at the front and the back of that ID to make sure that that ID meets their state's requirements. Personal knowledge. We all know that. We know the signer knows us. Most states allow that. With with traditional notarization, we know that California does not, but with all the states that have enacted remote online notarization, personal knowledge is acceptable. Knowledge-based authentication. That's that 5 question quiz that the signer has to answer in 2 minutes, 5 questions, and they have to answer it 80% correctly. So if they don't pass that quiz, they get a second chance. And what do those questions entail? We're talking about things on their credit report. So you bought a car in 2020. Who did you finance it with? You have a family member that lives in the state. Is this person that person? So all those questions are part of the KBA questions. My favorite as a Virginia notary, because sometimes people can't pass that KBA questions. I'll give you an example. Had a signer who owned over 100 properties. First time he tried to get on the platform to do a sale for one of his properties, he failed. Why? When you have 100 properties, it could be any one of those properties that could come up for that knowledge base authentication. So he had his secretary pull a list of all his properties, kind of went through it. So as the questions came up, he could quickly review it and hopefully answered it correctly. In day two, he did pass the knowledge base authentication. But I mean, when you have a lot of properties, a lot of assets, that could get a little bit tedious. So I like biometrics. It uses credential analysis, uses that selfie of that person, that biometrics, and it matches the picture on the ID to the person. Some states allow it, some states don't. So this is why I go back. You need to know your state's law of how you can identify a signer with remote online notarization. 2012 had one type of notarization type, traditional, pretty much. We had an iPen still hasn't quite taken off as much as it could have, but we really only had traditional. 2012, we had remote online notarization, and then Alabama stepped into remote ink notarization. So knowing what your state allows for online notarization is going to be very important. I can only do remote online notarization. Some states only allow remote ink notarization, like Alabama. So knowing what your state requires is going to be very important to know that. Some states require the notary to use an approved platform. Again, go to your Secretary of State's website. Go check out all the laws on remote online notarization. Does it require for you to use a platform off of their list? Virginia, I don't have a state list. So what I do is I reach out to the vendor that I'm going to be on and I ask them yearly, hey, it's my yearly check-in. Has anything changed on the platform? Does the platform meet all the requirements for me as a Virginia notary? And I get a reply and I keep that reply in my inbox because I'm going to make sure that the platform is doing everything. I don't know all the back end, but that's their job. They should be knowing everything that my state requires that they're doing correctly. And then I have that as proof for myself. All right. Secure audio video presence of the signer. Everybody remembers, can you see me, hear me now? The Verizon guy. He would be going from here. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? So it is required for you, the signer, to be able to hear the signer. If you're having any kind of tech issues on the platform, that is your job to make sure that you work through all those tech issues. I'm going to throw in here, what if your signer is mute? They're not able to speak. You should be on a platform that has the chat feature that embeds into your journal and into your video in order to still be able to communicate with those folks that have some type of disability. So here now is either listening, hearing the signer, or being able to chat with that signer as well. Can you see me now? You have to see the signer. Your video is now part of your journal. If you can't see the signer, work through those tech issues. You're going to become the very best tech person. And if you can't work through the tech issues, you need to be on a platform that you're able to call or chat with to help work through those tech issues because like I said before, your journal is now part of the video is now part of your journal. So you got to be able to see the signer and you need to be able to hear the signer.
Jackie, before you move on, someone wants to know, can you explain what iPen is?
Yes. So in-person notarization. So that's when the notary gets the documents electronically and I take my tablet to the signer and now we sign all the documents electronically. It still requires in person me and the signer to be in the same room, but now we can sign all the documents electronically. So it saves us that paper cost, especially when you're a notary signing agent. That can be a pain in the rear end, right? Printing 150 pages twice with iPen. We get rid of the paper, everything gets done digitally, and every state has their own rule, has their own guidelines on it. The NNA last year did a really great, if you go to the NNA's website, a really great go to their knowledge center. Everything is broken out state by state for iPen, what it requires, what you need to send to your ask your Secretary of State, and all the criteria that are required with the iPen. Great question. All right. Best practice is script. Have a script to guide you through that process. I've put it right here on the top. The notary needs to introduce themselves. I start off with, hi, I'm Jacqueline Phillips. I'm a notary here in the state of Virginia. I'm letting you know that today's audio video session is going to be recorded. I want to let the signer know that they're being recorded. I've had signers that got on the screen and they're like, oh, I didn't know I was going to be recorded. I haven't put on my makeup yet. And they've canceled the call. So you need to let the signer know that it's audio video recorded. I let the signer know that. I have them state their name for the record. Um, I may already know who they are because they've already introduced themselves by email, but I want them to put that on video. We want our video to be as robust as possible if it ever gets called into question. So have them state their name. If there's any witnesses, have them state their name. If a spouse walks through and they start conversing, hey, spouse, I want to let you know that that you're being audio video recorded and you're now on on this video, and this video is public record. So we want them to know that they're being recorded when they're anytime they're in the screen. Then identification. The platform that you're on, you should still be able to see the identification. Have the platform should allow you to see the front and the back of the ID. You should see all corners of the ID. You should be able to see the picture of that person, compare it to the picture in the ID to the person that's in front of you. You still need to do all your checks as a notary to make sure that the person in front of you is the person that needs to be signing that document. Um, Sometimes signers get on the platform and I want to make sure that I know that they know what they're signing. So instead of me telling them what the document is, I ask them, hey, can you give me a brief description of the document we're going to notarize today? It gives them some talk time. It's now embedded into the platform. It's not like, oh, I don't know. I did not know what I was signing. No, I asked you to give me a brief description of the document that you're signing. And then with that, I also ask them, are you signing today of your own free will? Is there anyone forcing you to sign this document out of your free will? So we're having them answer these questions. So we're making sure that they're not coerced. On some platforms, if you're the one picking up the calls, they do ask you to make sure to ask where the document is going to be used. Because if you live in a state that doesn't allow for documents that are going to be used overseas that require an apostille on authentication, such as Virginia, I don't want to notarize that document with Ron, knowing that if the signer is going to need authenticated and it's going to get rejected at the state level. So if you're on a platform, that's the reason why they're asking you to ask the signer, where's the document going to be used? Electronic signature. I let the signer know that they're going to be using electronic signature on the platform to sign that document. So with electronic signature, I always want to talk about this audit trail. So when you're notarizing a document, there's audit trail in the platforms. There's audit trail on the document, and we're going to talk about acknowledgments. We all know that except for Alabama, an acknowledgement the signer could sign prior to the meeting with the notary, and then it's just the notary's responsibility to ask, hey, Mrs. Smith, is this your signature on the document? Did you affix this signature on the document of your own free will, right? They can sign before. But with remote online notarization, if they don't sign in session, we have no audit trail on the document that this signer ever signed this document. So with remote online notarization, even with acknowledgments, best practice is to have the signer not sign the document at all. We want the signer to have some type of action on that document. So if anybody goes back to the audit trail of that document, they can see the signer signed in session with the notary, even though it's an acknowledgement, and it adds that, like I said, robustness to the document and to the signing session as well. Some states require the notary to say what type of notarization that they're doing. I just do it automatically. Oh, Mr. Smith, we're looking at your affidavit here. It requires a jurat. That keys me in to remember I'm going to need to do an oath. So as soon as I'm done notarizing this document, I'm going to go through. Can you please raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear or affirm that statements in these documents are true to the best of your knowledge and belief? Do you swear or affirm? I capture this oath now on my video for my journal. A closing. Thank you, Mr. Smith, for joining us today. I gave you great service. We are notaries here, but we're also entrepreneurs. I'm going to send you a link for my Google review. Um, if I've gave you great service, I like to send that off and get that 5-star review. So make sure that you're incorporating, and having a script helps you incorporate all of these to build your business as well.
I just want to say real quickly, I know there's a conversation in the chat about how the ID gets viewed. on the platform, it's important to remember, first and foremost, what your state law says. So for some states, you can hold up that it goes through the process of, the IDing, and then some notaries have them hold it up to the camera as well. Some states don't allow any personal information to be in that recording, so you wouldn't be able to allow that. So know that when you're having these conversations amongst yourselves, some states regulate what's in the recording and what's not supposed to be in the recording. Right, Jackie? Am I wrong in saying
Yes,
that?
yep, you're perfectly right there, Miss Marcy. Absolutely. And as I said that at the beginning, know your state's law. I can't cover all 43 states law in this, but I want to make sure that those things are now in your mind. Go and look at your Secretary of State statutes. Go on the NNA website. They have a really robust articles about broken down by state, what your state requires, if there's a platform, what platforms are allowed. It's really broken down really well, and I'm just here giving you high level.
And here's a great question. So on the acknowledgement, if the signer signed beforehand, do we ask them to re-upload the document so we can see them sign it? Great question.
Great question. So remember, I'm going to give you the answer. It's I'm going to probably have the signer upload it again, or I'm going to ask the signer, do you think it's going to be a problem with the third party for having that document having two signatures, right? So that's going to be the signer's responsibility. So I know you've uploaded the document with a signature. I want to make sure that we have the audit trail of you being in session with me. So I need you to sign the document again. You can go ahead and sign next to the signature you have there, or I have a button on my screen that allow me to upload a new document. So this is going to be more of knowing how your platform works. Or if you are the one who's sourcing your own work, when the signer sends it to you, have them send you a clean document before you even start the session so that you're not
Mhm.
going through that type of conversation.
So I'm just going to answer these couple that are still in here. Jackie,
Mhm.
ones I'll get through before we move on. So
Yes.
is the raising of the hand needed for the oath? I love this question too. Do you make your people raise their hand?
I do have people raise their hand. Is it required? No, it's just best practice. We know that when we go to court, right? They say, "Could you please raise your hand?" And do you solemnly swear that you're going to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Um, I have watched because I was at Notarize and I was the trainer there. I watched this lady. It was so sweet. She had ALS and she couldn't raise her own hand. So the notary said, "That's okay. It's not required. It's just something that we do as a formality." And she's like, "No, I want to raise my hand." She goes, "Honey, can you raise my hand for me?" And he raised her hand so she could raise her right hand for that oath. I just thought that was the sweetest thing ever. Because she really wanted to just make sure that she did everything right, how the notary wanted to do for the notarization, but it's not required.
That's so funny. I make them raise their hand too. I raise my hand and then they
Hmm.
automatically raise their hand because they see me
Yes.
doing it. It
Yep.
does make it more official for Jonelle and the chat. 100% it does make it more
Yes.
official. Shelly wants to know, is it okay to use the whiteout feature on the platform, I think it is. Is it okay to use
Yes.
the whiteout feature on the platform to cover the signature and then have them re-sign it?
Great question. So remember, the body of the document is not the notary's responsibility, right? So we should not be changing anything that's up front above the notarial certificate, right? So instead of whiting out, I'd rather them more cross out an initial than whiting out. Um, we should only be whiting out in your certificate if you're going to white out like the state, the venue, or you're whiting out the date, any of that information. But as a rule, you shouldn't be whiting out for the signer. Definitely not in session. It's better to cross out an initial so you have that going back to that audit trail, right? If you white out, there's really not an audit trail. It looks like nothing, it was gone, wasn't there at all. So we're going to use cross out an initial once your session. If it was before session, that would be something different, right? Email the signer, hey, I'm prepping the docs for this signing. Is it okay to do that? Because all of that doesn't really get tracked depending, and goes back depending on your platform. So you're going to need to know what your platform does that tracks all those actions.
Yep, good information. I think of it same as like in person. I don't like
Mhm.
cross outs or anything like that. I like clean. So
Mhm.
even though we can adjust to technology wise, I'm always like, let's just do it all at one time, just in case no one's get rejected. Okay,
Yep.
that's all the questions in the chat. I'm turning it back to you.
Awesome. All right. So customer service, you have to be able to listen. That's going to be your listening skills are going to be the best. Why? Because of tech issues. If their signer's struggling on how to get their signature on the document, they're not understanding you. You're going to need to be patient. You're going to have to give clear communication. Click on the three dots on your picture. Do you see your picture there? Do you see the three dots? Yes. When you click those three dots, it's going to say reset your signature. Wonderful. Do you see those? Do you see at the top of on the right hand side of your page, you see where it says signing? Yes. Okay. Once you click on that, you're going to be able to see the documents. Knowing your platform, you have to play the signer. Please play the signer on your platform because what you're seeing may not be what the signer sees. So you have to give good customer service. And the way you give good customer service is knowing what the signer sees. You're going to have empathy sometimes. I had a signer, she called me like at 4:30, and she needed to get court documents in at 5 o'clock that day. Her spouse were going through a divorce. She wanted to have custody of her child. She's in tears, crying. Can you help me? Can you get this done? I'm like, yes, I can. Let's get through this. So have some empathy. 9 times out of 10, this is the signer's first time doing onlinerization. They have never, ever done this process. So they're marrying FaceTime or Google Meet or Zoom, and then they're marrying with DocuSign and or Adobe. And now they're doing two things instead of one. Some people can't do all that. So making sure that you give clear communications. I send my signers a text. People don't like to read emails. These are the things. You're going to get an email. You're going to get an email from me, um, A-list powered, whatever platform that I'm using. Please take a clear picture of the front and back of your ID. Make sure that you're using Google. All of those customer services things are going to be required of you to make sure that you get that notarization done from beginning to end.
Someone
So
asked
tools of the
Jackie,
trade.
what is
Go
the,
ahead.
oh, sorry.
Go
Someone,
ahead.
I was trying to get you before you went in there. Someone wants to know what the venue would be since you're online. And this is a good question too, if you haven't done.
Great.
Mhm.
Yes, great question. So we're always going to say that the signer traveled to the notary. They travel in time to where you're at because you, the notary, need to be in your state in order to complete remote online notarization. So the venue for you as the notary or the venue for the notarization or the certificate is going to be where you're going to be at. I'm a notary here in Virginia. I travel with my laptop. So sometimes I'm in Fauquier County. Sometimes I'm in Prince William County. Sometimes I tell the kids and we're going to go to Massanutten. So while I'm down there, I take my laptop and I just got to make sure that wherever my body's at, I make sure that I put the right state, which is automatically Virginia. And then I'm going to make sure that I know what county I'm in order to get that notarization completed.
Thank you.
Awesome. So tools of the trade. It's not very expensive to get into Ron, really. We all have a laptop and a computer. I mean, most people have one, so you're not having to buy one. What you have already, more than likely, is going to be able to use. Um, I'm going to tell you to have a headset and headphones. Why? I have a dedicated space in my house. You're seeing me in my office. It's my third garage. I've turned it over to totally my office. My kids are in the house. They could be killing each other. They could be fighting. I have no clue. I have a nice, quiet space in order to get my remote online notarization. If you're using a room in your home, put that headset so you can block out all that extra stuff and the signer can be able to concentrate on just you and the signer to get that notarization done, especially if you're doing it for customers. I do it for a lot of title companies. I do it for a lot of signing services. I want to give that signer the best, my undivided attention without all the extra noise going on. So have a headset or headphones or earbuds if you're going to be using a space in your home. Webcam, if your laptop's a little bit older, $20, $30 is not very expensive to add a webcam to your laptop if the bones of your laptop will still do and just be able to see the signer on a nice clearer video in order to get that notarization done because like we said you need to be able to see the signer needs to be able to see you. Background, you notice my background, it's another desk behind me. Have a nice background for your notarizations. um put up something behind you, whatever. Most of the platforms, some of the platforms allow you to blur, some of them do not allow you to blur because they want to make sure that it looks live. So knowing again, once again, knowing what your platform does, having a nice clean background behind you, white wall, whatever that you want. Most of us have internet already. So it's not like you're going out of your way to purchase any of this. I have a dedicated router in my office for my internet. The kids have their own in the house. They don't even have the password to the router in my office, because it's my router, my information. I just want to make sure that I'm blocking as much as possible from any intrusions through the internet or through the World Wide Web. External hardware, that might be something that you might have to invest in. Um, some states, again, allows the platform to keep your information, and that's good enough. Some states tells the notary that they have to have a backup of all their information. So having a gig or 2 gig or whatever, an external hard drive that you're downloading either as soon as you're done or once a week or once a month, get in a cadence of downloading the journal and the video in order to meet your state's requirements, if that's what your state requires. Um, Having 2 screens is nice. Like I have a second screen right now. It had my notes. I used to have it that it had my script because I didn't have it memorized. I've now done 6,000 notarization. I have my script memorized, or if I need to look up something really quick, because the I might have I'm on a platform and I'm taking their calls and I'm looking at a certificate that I'm like, doesn't, I don't think that meets my state requirements. Having that second screen or that second computer in order to look up any kind of information before you notarize the document is really great to have, but not necessary. All right, I think we're going to hit some questions here. We are. We're
Wait,
wrapping up.
hold,
Oh,
before you quiz,
too late. We'll do this one and then we'll go back.
oh, go.
How to identify signers with remote online notarization. So we talked about how to identify the signers. This is multiple answers. So pick all the ones that you heard me talk about. And then after that, we'll pause and have Miss Marcy
It's
jump
an
in with
easy
some
question,
questions.
and I'll be answering astrology to this one.
Yeah. So yes, you could try that. I don't think it'll work, but definitely biometrics if your state allows it. Virginia does. Um, Credential analysis. Definitely, you have to have the front and back of the ID, go through that third party vendor to make sure that it's a valid ID. And of course, personal knowledge. You don't have to go through, depends on the platform. Some platforms still requires the signer to upload an ID just for their purposes to make sure that you're doing a valid notarization, but it just depends. All right, Miss Marcy, your question.
It's an easy one. They want to know if you have any recommendations for headphones or headsets.
Um, those wonderful AirPods that everyone uses are good enough. And then I like a wired, if I'm going somewhere, I like a wired headset. It just helps with interference, especially with us having so much Bluetooth and this being used with Wi-Fi and that everything. I like a wired headset if I'm like if I'm at the hotel, I've got my wired headsets with me. I use the Beats one. They're really expensive, but just as long as you're looking for something that has noise canceling, that's going to be the best thing.
All right, thank you.
All right.
Oh,
Woo! Sign a chick jumped up in
mm,
front of Michelle. All right, I told you this could go anywhere tonight. So, here we go. Ready for another question? Quiz question. Multi-select. What is the role of secure audio video in RON? So we talked about why we do some things with the security of audio video, gives us some great robust things with our journal. Um, Journal is now required to have the video, and a journal is required, which is really cool. All right, so signer, yep, we want to make sure the signer's presence, they're in the video, we can see them. We're recording the signer's voice or chat. Some platforms allow the chat and it's recorded into your journal. And we have that audit trail that the signer was there. We're having them sign that document in your presence every single time. Ooh, wow, this was a total change up. All right. Michelle says I'm taking it back. TJ from Texas. Prince is up there. And we have some signers that have some 5 answer streaks. Another quiz question. Multi-select. Which are notarization types? So we talked about 2012 really only had 2 types of notarization. And then with 2012 and COVID, we now have several types of notarization. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right. So now we don't have digital only anymore. We still have traditional. Traditional is not going to go away, folks. You're going to still do traditional notarization. There's going to be places that the signer can't get internet. So you're going to have to drive there, get there to get the documents notarized. Or it might be a vendor or someone says, nope, I'm not accepting online notarization. I want a wet signature. We're going to do that. We know that there's some home loans that don't allow for remote onlineization. It's going to still require the good old face-to-face, the good old 150 pages or stacks of paper in order to get that notarization. So it will not, I don't ever see in it, it'll be, not in my lifetime do I ever see it to be digital only. All right, Michelle says I'm keeping my lead, and we had a little change up there. All right, 27 of 30. What is best practices for Ron? What is a best practice for Ron? We talked about this. I reiterated it. It's different from state to state. It's different from state to state. So the notary is going to have to know. Yep, you have to know your state's law. Not all states let you use any platform. Some states have an approved list. You have to use the approved list. You don't use the approved list, your notarization is not in compliance. Um, you can't skip the verification. Personal knowledge is still verifying who the signer is. That's not skipping it. You still have to know the signer. So that is part of the verification. Don't ignore the signer. They can become very frustrated. You're going to need to get them through that tech issue. All right. Leaderboards stay the same. Quiz question. Double points. All right. What is a good customer service practice on Ron? We talked about this. Details. Making sure the signer knows. Yes, clear communication. Don't rush the process. Let the signer have the time. Put time on your calendar. You know, it's just one document. It might only take you 5 to 10 minutes. But if the signer has any time tech issues, allow for that. Um, Clear communication is going to be important. An email, text, letting them know what the process is like. Some notaries even have short videos that they send the signer to know what the process is like. But that good customer service is what's going to have you have return clients back. All right, leaderboards stay the same. Which tool is essential for Ron? So which one of these is important? Have to have it every single time. Does anybody know about a fax machine anymore? I still have a fax number through Notary Rotary in case I need it. It's more for hospital reasons than anything. So a webcam is necessary. You have to be able to see the signer. They have to be able to see you. It's a two-way street. All right, and we're wrapping up here. All right. Any other questions in the chat, Miss Marcy?
I see, let's see here, double check. Do you use a light ring, a ring light? Light ring?
I don't use a light ring. You could use a ring light. I have enough light. Matter of fact, I have too much light. I have a picture that blocks that one light because I have a halo. I know I'm very angelic, but not everybody feels the same way about me about that. So I do have that blocks that light out. But you can see, just as long as you have very good lighting, if you have to use a ring light, absolutely. you want to have good lighting for your signings.
Any other questions? This was so informative and so much fun. And I appreciate everyone who attended. I know it's a late Friday night, and so thank you. I'm sure it's been a long week for all of you. And
Mhm.
Jackie for presenting, closing out day one of our Notary Public Day Extravaganza.
And do we want to know who the winners were on the board?
Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
Here we go. So the podium for third place goes to D. Second place goes to Princess. And first place goes to Michelle from New Jersey. Thank you all. Hope this was a fun way for you to learn. I think it keeps you engaged, especially since we're doing the 7 to 9. We're doing the 8. What's it?
Mm.
See, I don't even know what time it is. 8 to 9. We're doing the
8 to 9.
last one. So we're closing it out. Thank you, Marcy, again for everything that you do for the Notary Publics across the United States.
Well, thank you. And thank you everyone for joining. I'm so grateful that we were able to bring some good content to you guys today. I hope you all enjoy the rest of your evening, and we'll see you back here tomorrow. Have a great night, everybody.
See you tomorrow. Bye.